Hello and welcome to a live Deprogram with Keri Smith. I am your host, Keri. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience. I saw some people calling me Gary in the chat, which I understand. A little late. Sometimes Gary from Neurotic is known for being late, so I'll take it as a compliment because I respect Gary. But thank you for your patience. I had some technical issues. I think they're all sorted. Let me know if for some reason you can't hear me in the chat. I think it's working fine now though. So there we go. Um, I had first of all, if it's your first time here, this is a live show that we do on Mondays and Fridays. Usually talk about what's in the news, what's on our minds. Sometimes we have guests. And today I'm doing a focused topic a little bit on the ways in which we dress and how clothing affects our mood and our performance and other people's perception of us and how they treat us, and what the modern day fashion or the way that most people dress today says about our cultural mood and how it influences us and how we see ourselves as a people. I'm going to be talking about all of that. We're going to look at some stuff throughout history of how during times of economic upheaval and the Great Depression, that fashion required more creativity and thriftiness, and the benefits of putting on your glad rags and dressing nice, even if things around you aren't nice at the moment. So that's what we're discussing. I've also got some stuff to show you about Martin Luther King and the way in which he encouraged people to dress, and sort of contrasting that to protesters today. So we have some funny stuff too to look through. But welcome if you're new. Welcome to the regulars. I see you guys in the chat. I just want to say I feel so incredibly grateful, blessed, just full of good feelings, good vibes from this weekend. We had a deprogrammed meetup in Austin, Texas on Friday, and that was so much fun. I got to see some people who I hadn't seen in a long time, and I got to meet some people I'd never met before from the chat. I don't know if you're here, but Scott and Charles, who came all the way from Portland, Oregon, to come to Mindfest, and they joined us at the meetup. That was great. Little Ragamuffin, Peter Feliciano. There were so many people there. And Natasha, I know you're in chat sometimes. Good to see you. And yeah, that was great. It strengthened my resolve to do more of these, to get more organized and do more of these where people can put a face to a name, have that sense of, grow in that like fellowship and friendship, that the friendships that people are forming and have formed. And I loved it. Then on Saturday, we had Mindsfest, minds.com put on Mindsfest at the Vulcan in Austin. And I got to moderate a panel. And that was great, seeing a lot of folks I hadn't seen in a while, like Libby Emmons. I got to meet Tiffany Justice from Moms for Liberty in person. I've interviewed her before, but it was so great to meet her in person. She's just a force of nature, that woman. I'm so inspired by her. The hits keep coming. That Moms for Liberty is doing good work because the mainstream hits keep coming and trying to smear them as somehow radical or extreme. And so anyway, it was really nice to meet her in person. Got to see Sean Fitzgerald and his lovely fiance again. I hadn't seen them in a while. Actual Justice Warrior. I got to meet Jimmy Dore. I got to see Alex Stein again. Big ball of energy. Lila Hart was there, the comedian. She's been on the show before. So it was just full of meeting people, having great conversations. And the panel I ended up moderating, if you've seen the clip, it did get bum rushed by Alex Stein, which really gave me a run for my money as moderator. I get nervous public speaking. You may not know that. I've mentioned it before, but I do. It's a little different than podcasting. And when I first started podcasting, I got really nervous as well. I'm afraid of public speaking. It doesn't come naturally to me. So let that be a lesson. If you think I do okay at talking to the camera or talking to folks on camera, let that be a lesson that you can get better at anything, because I used to have so many nerves about it, and now I've gotten much more accustomed to it. And even when I first started doing these solo shows without someone, that was a whole new thing, and getting used to that was something that I had to overcome the fear of doing that by myself, of sitting here alone and talking to the camera, and talking in person with an audience still makes me nervous because I don't do it as often, and so that's why I always say yes when people ask me, because I know I need to get better at it, and every time I do it, it's great practice, and I learn things about what I can do better next time. And I've moderated panels before. I've been on panels before. Last year I hosted Mindfest. Being put back in that moderator position, the things that make me nervous in a moderator position, of course, are how do you draw things out of people and get the best discussion while also, moving yourself to the background so that you're letting everyone on the stage talk, and you're just kind of steering maybe where the conversation goes, and then reining things in if they get out of control. That's the other part, is sometimes when you've got people with very big personalities and different opinions, it can be a little daunting, like, how am I going to rein this in if it goes sideways? And so I thought I was doing okay, and then at the end, the panel was about election integrity. At the end, Destiny was on the panel, who is a big personality on the left. Alex Stein had been on a different panel, but he bum rushed the stage, took my microphone, so I didn't have a microphone, and started yelling at Destiny about, do you still believe in open marriage now that your wife has left you? And I I kind of froze like everyone else. I didn't know what to do. I was trying to figure out, do they want me to interrupt this? Are they okay with this happening? Because Destiny's yelling back at him. Maybe they don't mind a little bit of this kind of fireworks on the stage. And Alex is sort of, he's a comedian and this is part of what he does. But I also felt bad for Destiny. And so it's kind of weighing, what should I do? Sean Fitzgerald handed me another mic, but that one didn't work. Anyway, one of the organizers, my friend, came up and was trying to remove Alex, which of course was almost impossible. And then finally, at some point, I stood up and was like, please give me the microphone back. And he gave it back. It was funny, and Destiny's a great sport. And I think he was okay in the end. And I think people got a few laughs out of it. I did say, and I mean this, though, I love that Destiny comes to these, because he's one of the few people on the left. There were several there on the left this time, but he's one of the few who consistently comes out to conferences with the intention of speaking to people who disagree with him. And that's rare on the left. It's not as common on the left to see that. But, and I know that, having been there on the left for 20 years, is they really discourage conversation, and they say it's about power dynamics, and they engage in ad hominems and say you should never talk to insert an ad hominem here, right? They label you something incorrect and then say that because they've labeled you that, they shouldn't speak with you. And he doesn't do that, and he gets called all kinds of names by the left for coming and talking with people who are conservatives or who are libertarians or middle of the road. So I really appreciated him being there. But that's what happened. Therese, I love Alex Stein, but he's a lot. Yes. It was pretty funny, though. I think people had a good time. Yeah, some people in the chat, I'm just looking to see. Somebody in the chat said, yeah, they saw that part. It was a little crazy. It was crazy. It was fun. But Mindfest was amazing. And one thing about Mindfest, I'll say this. Some people I saw online were talking about the ticket price, thought it was a bit high. For a day's worth of events with a live Drinking Bros podcast taping, and there was stand-up comedy, Jimmy Dore, and 3 panels, it actually wasn't that expensive, in my opinion. It is expensive, but not for all that you're getting for that day's worth of events. It's not. The other thing is that a lot of people like myself who do these events don't ask for a fee because I know they're losing money. Mindfest is not making money doing this. And so it kind of worries me that that organizations like theirs or companies like theirs won't continue doing it if they're not able to make it make sense financially. But so far they put their money where their mouth is. They believe in discourse and they want to get the minds.com name out there. And so I really support what they're doing. And so, just so you know, people are not, there's always those detractors online I saw a few of those who said, on Twitter anyway, grifters grifting. I'm like, well, then I'm doing it wrong somehow because I'm not making money doing it. It's kind of like when I was doing Etsy, but I was in the red because I was not charging people shipping, and so I was paying more money than they were paying me for the items. But I just enjoyed sending things to people until someone was like, "Keri, what are you doing? You're paying money to send people things." Yeah, that's what was happening. Grifting backwards. That's what was going on. So anyway, that was wonderful. And then I got to hang out with Benjamin Boyce and his lovely wife, Leslie Elliott from the Radical Center. If you haven't checked out her channel, please do. I've was on her channel recently and would love to have her on Deprogrammed. They were just so lovely to hang out with. We had them as house guests, Little Ragamuffin also, and it was just a great weekend, really fulfilling. And uh, my husband, unfortunately, his show, all of Red Poppy Fest in Georgetown's like the big annual festival. So much fun every year, bands, vendors, food trucks, and Friday and Saturday were fine, but Sunday got rained out. And so we all ended up going to Church on the Square in Georgetown. And I was kind of joking that God rained everything out so we would show up for church because it was at the same time. And I really, once I got there, I felt, oh, we were meant to be here for this service. That's why. So anyway, had a great weekend. You might know if you're like me. I'm one of those people. Some people think I'm an extrovert, and I guess I am in some ways, but I'm also I guess I'm in the middle. I'm one of those people who I'm a little of both. I do really enjoy being around people and having house guests and going to conferences like this where you're a lot of energy to seeing all these people that you love and meeting people for the first time. But I then afterwards I need my recharge time. I need to be I need to be quiet for a little bit. So last night was just okay, time to recharge. And this morning, let's get back in the swing of things. My husband spoiled me and made a really nice dinner, and we just relaxed and so that's what's been happening. I don't know if you're like that. That's how I am. Okay. Stephen Landau. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you back in the chat. He just became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Okay, so today's topic is, let's see. Let me see. I've got so many fun things pulled up. The reason I wanted to do this, I'm working on this piece. I've been working on it for a little bit, and I'm spending too much time on it. That I need to just get it needs to be good enough and not perfect. I know this. So I have to surrender and say, no, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just finish the piece. It'd be good enough. But I've been thinking a lot about this for a while, and I called today's episode, Put Your Glad Rags On. Put on your glad rags. Because I'm thinking a lot about how the way in which we dress affects our mood, our performance, and the ways in which people perceive us and the ways they treat us. And how does this relate to, you can look at this on the individual level, like how does it affect your individual mood and the way you perform and the way people treat you? Or you can look on a societal level. What does it say about our culture if you look at the way that we dress for different functions, and how could we make culture better by dressing better? And so one of the things I was thinking about was during the Great Depression, which is sort of when this phrase "glad rags" became popular. People didn't have a lot. They weren't people of a lot of means at the time, but they would make an effort to dress their best when they went out in public, in a way of elevating their mood, the mood of people around them. People would get dressed up, put on their glad rags, and go out. Um, it was much more common at the time to wear formal attire to formal events. To imagine that, if you're going somewhere like church, or you're going to work, or you're going to uh, uh, the cinema, you're going out. It was much more common to put a little effort into how you were dressing. And then I started thinking about the feed cloth, the sackcloth clothing, because I shared a photo online. I looked through a lot of old photos. If you want to make your Facebook experience more pleasant, I'll give you a secret. I joined a ton of these old history groups and photo groups on Facebook. So most of my feed now is just full of really interesting photos and pictures and from different time periods. And I love that because you could just kind of give you a window into the past, and you don't see as much of the negative stuff in the news. If I want to see what's the negative stuff in the news, I go to Twitter. So I can then see what's happening in the world over there, and then I come back to Facebook and look at my old pictures. So, but I shared one of these photos of a sackcloth dress. My great grandma made clothing out of feed sacks, and one of the things that happened during the Great Depression is that they realized people were making clothing out of feed sacks, out of flour sacks and stuff, and so the manufacturers started printing really pretty floral designs and patterns on the sacks themselves, so that when the women made clothes from them, it would look really pretty. And to this day, that's where, if you go and look up, sackcloth flowery dress or something, you'll find lots of modern clothes that are sort of meant to be reminiscent of those sackcloth dresses. So maybe we can start there and just show some of those. I've got a link pulled up with some photos. Let's share some of these. Okay. This article is called The Amazing History of Flower Sack Dresses, and it has 10 different pictures here. The motto of the Depression era was making do. There was an expression that was really popular then. Maybe some of you guys know it. Maybe some of you in the chat. It was use it up, wear it out, make do, or make without. And that was a very common expression. You use it up, wear it out, make do, or make without, or do without. And so people would find creative ways to save money, reusing things, refurbishing things. A lot of the appliances, of course, were built to last. Unlike appliances today, we live in a somewhat disposable culture. But so let me get back into this. The motto of the Depression era was making do, while making sure nothing was wasted and everything was reused or recycled. This sparked families to get incredibly creative with how they handled meals, clothing, and rationed water and utilities. One of the most interesting innovations came when women began using cotton flour sacks to make dresses and shirts for their children. This trend quickly caught on, and once the flour companies got word of this, they chipped in by beginning to print patterns on their bags and even adding color. The following photos tell the story about how everyone truly played their part during this era. This is the story of Great Depression sack dresses. And so, look, you can see here on the left, there's a photo of two women in some of these sackcloth dresses. I mean, just beautiful, feminine, flowery, modest, but very attractive dresses. And they're sitting on these big sacks of flour. And on the bag here on the right, you can see this really pretty pattern. And then it gives instructions on how to wash it, because they knew people were going to be wearing it. And after they used all the flour inside, turning it into a dress. This early 1940s photo on the left shows two women showing off their handmade dresses. Okay, so that's just describing what I described. Here's another picture you can see of some of the really pretty designs on the flour sacks. This photo is from Time Life. And then this is from a magazine. It says, given how widespread this became, national publications began to print instructions on how to produce different items. And so this magazine article just shows you some instructions on how to print aprons and how to sew aprons and dresses and shirts from some of these flour sacks. And here's a picture of a family. Look at how, now again, this is during the 40s. It's not like these people have a lot of means. You can even see in the background, which was common at the time, sometimes people would paper the walls or put newspaper up on the walls or do, things to try and beautify the home when you don't have a lot of money. But even though they don't have a lot of means, like, they look how nice, like, all the children look, like, healthy, happy, pretty dresses. This is a mom who clearly cares about her kids and is making sure that they look nice when they go out, even in the midst of the worst economic times. Yeah. It says many of these were quite beautiful. They are. Here's another advertisement about, making clothes out of the flour sacks. And then here's some close-up pictures of some of the patterns from the flour sacks, and look how cute. This one has little dogs and flowers on it. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. I love every once in a while I find some like a really nice handmade vintage dress sometimes at thrift stores, and it's always like, "Woohoo, I found something special. Someone put a lot of time into this." Here's another pattern of a ballerina with some flowers. And then here's one of the common dress shapes, patterns of the time. Just beautiful, flattering. I think one of the things that I'm not I can't help but talk about today since I'm talking about this, I'm gonna obviously be talking just a little bit about modesty as well, because I think in today's time, we see 2 different cultural forces at play in some of the gross ways people dress. One is nihilism, and these 2 things are on my mind because I got to go see Jordan Peterson speak earlier this week and, with our friend Randy, and he at one point was talking about nihilism and hedonism, and I think he's right that both of those things are at play in our current culture. Nihilism, of course, the belief in nothing, apathy, just sort of giving up, and, you're almost in a state of resenting being in the world, resenting living, resenting people and yourself, and not believing in anything. And I think we see a lot of that in today's culture, in the ways that people dress, especially in my old cult, the social justice or woke cult. You see a lot of people uglifying themselves. You see a lot of women in particular making themselves ugly. And I've got some photos pulled up we can look at about that. Then the other influence is hedonism and this sort of just overindulging and almost becoming addicted to biological functions and sex and drink and drugs and anything, just chasing anything, trying to put anything in that god space, trying to take things like sex or alcohol and make those your god. And in the way that that's reflected in clothing, I think, is that clothing has become, instead of abiding by the tried and true rule of thumb of less can be more, clothing now has become like, let it all hang out and, show everybody the goods when you're walking, even if you're just at the grocery store, you got your boobs and butt hanging out. And I think it's just, I think it's appalling. It's not attractive. It's the opposite, actually. It leaves nothing to the imagination. And I think people have forgotten that there are different ways to dress, appropriateness. They've forgotten appropriateness. Like if you're gonna dress like you're going to the sex club, then go to the sex club. But if you're dressing like you're going to the sex club and then you go to the grocery store, you're like, I don't. That's not the right venue for that outfit. Or I've got a picture pulled up. If you dress like you're going to the sex club and you go to the White House, you're not showing that location, that place that you're at, the dignity and respect. You're showing that you don't have any respect whatsoever for where you're at or for the fellow guests there, because you're dressed out of place. You're dressed for a different location, different activity. So I miss dresses like this. I miss women dressing in lovely, flattering, attractive clothing, and men. And, I get told a lot, uh, that people like my hats or they like my boots or clothing and stuff like that, and I think it's just because it's become less common, I guess. I love hats on men and women. I like to see more of them. If you're a person who wants to try a hat, I've said this before, people will say to me, "Well, yeah, you can pull off the hat, though, or you can pull that style of dress off or whatever." So can you. Do you think I always dressed the way I wanted to in the ways that made me feel good? No, I used to be in the social justice cult. I've got some pictures to show you. I used to dress in total, like almost entirely black. I was uglifying myself without realizing it. I was letting the inside reflect my outside. And I also was, I think, paying too much attention to what a lot of adults still pay attention to today. It was like, "Oh, what will others think if I wear this or that?" Who cares? You're not in middle school. So wear what makes you happy. And you're actually, I think, probably gonna find if you are a person who's constricted by that still and you wanna get rid of that, the more you wear what you like and what's flattering and pleasing to the eye, I think the more you'll find it's the exact opposite, that most people will say, "Wow, that looks really nice," or, you know, you can pull suddenly they'll start saying you're the person who can pull that off. That'll happen to you if you start wearing what is flattering on your body type. And different body types, of course, women, different body types, there are gonna be different styles of dress that look better on different women. There are some dresses that are better shaped for the twiggy style, like women who are more like skinny, and there are some dresses that are better for women with big hips and bosoms, and so figure out what works on your body type as well. That was something I had to do because there's some things I love on other women, but actually don't look good for my body type, and that's okay. Then you find the things that do that are the most flattering. Okay, I've got another one to show you. Now I have some interesting studies to get to, and some of them are mentioned in this article. Oh, Mrs. A, this makes me so happy. Look at this from chat. Mrs. A, I told my husband about what Carrie said about this before, and he talked me into getting a new hat for Easter. I got so many compliments at church. Thanks, Carrie. Of course. That makes me so happy. And you know what? I bet you found that you wearing a colorful or beautiful hat makes other people happy, and then they might want to wear a hat. Like it's just as, it's like when they see if I take Tiger out and people see Tiger and they smile and they get happy. And it's like sometimes a hat can be like that. Where people are like, "Oh, I love that hat." It's like, yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Rib Rascal, for $20. Thank you so much, sir. He says, I snagged a jaunty chapeau for you on my last trip to the Salvation Army. Where can I send it? Ah, super cool. Thank you. I actually have a P.O. box. Uh, I think it's on the About page of YouTube, but you know what? Where can you hit me up on either Twitter Messenger or Facebook Messenger, and I will send you the address if it's not on YouTube. Um, Thank you also to Super Base, the membership fairies here. 10 memberships, grab those up. Thank you so much. You're always supporting Deprogrammed by giving out memberships. But I really love that, Mrs. A, that you got an Easter hat. And that's also great, is to wear something for a special occasion. It's Easter. Of course. Dress appropriately for the occasion. We used to do this in this culture. Dress appropriately for the occasion or the event or the location. The picture that I put on today's thumbnail, for example, is the picture of my nicest dress. Now, normally, I'll give you a tip, ladies, and maybe this works for men too, actually. Here, let me take this down just for a second. Um, I buy almost all of my clothes at thrift stores. Like this shirt underneath, almost all of my clothing, thrift stores. Because once you start finding all these nice clothes and cool things at thrift stores and you pay so little for them, like $5 for this shirt or what have you, when you go back to a regular store, you can't justify it. You can't. You'll look at the clothes, even if you love it, you're like, I can't spend $100 on that. I could get that in a couple months when it ends up at the Goodwill or wherever, like you can't. At least I can't. It becomes hard for me to do that. And also because this way I can buy lots of cool things for very cheap prices at thrift stores. I don't care if somebody's worn them before. You clean them, you wash them. But then I save money for things that I think are worth the money that I'm not going to buy used. So, for example, I enjoy wearing hats. I enjoy wearing cowboy boots. Hats, I can get some pretty inexpensive ones. I don't buy handmade. I only have one handmade hat. But with boots, I'm kind of a boot snob. If you know me in real life, you know this about me. I am a little. I'm a bit of a boot snob. I used to sell handmade cowboy boots, and that I was a big fan of them before I worked at that shop, and so, I can't wear I'm sorry, I know I'm gonna sound like a snob, but I can't wear factory-made boots. First of all, because of the comfort level, they're not co a lot of them aren't comfortable, and also they're not great for your back and your feet. So, I will spend money. Instead of spending money on clothing, save money on the clothing, I spend it on handmade boots. Now, most of the time, I do find secondhand ones. I get a good deal on them, and I know which brands to buy and to look for, and I know what to look for in the boot, but there's still gonna be more than factory made, even if you get them secondhand. It's worth it. A handmade boot is gonna have a steel shank in it. It's good for arch support. It's good for your spine. We used to have people come into the boot shop I worked at whose orthopedic surgeons told them to come get a pair of handmade boots. If that tells you anything about how good it is for putting your spine in the right alignment, a good pair of boots. Um, they're made of real leather, all these things. So that's where I choose in my wardrobe. That's where my money's going to go, is on the footwear. So, why spend it on the clothing? Just a good tip. I think this is true for men too, with looking nice. Here in Texas, a lot of men wear the Western style shirts. My husband loves the Western style shirts and the pearl snap with little pearl snap buttons on them. That's the classic cowboy style. They look so nice. You can find them in the thrift shops, and it's a nice shirt. It's not a t-shirt. You can wear a t-shirt under it, whatever, but you look nice when you go out just because you're wearing something just a little bit more effort. You're going to look nicer than the guy who doesn't put any time into it. Even if you wear, of course, you're wearing it with jeans a lot of the time. So that's my tip. Don't waste it. Don't waste the money on the clothes. Spend it on the things that are, maybe there's a certain kind of accessory you like or something that costs, spend it on that. All this said, I will occasionally splurge on one really nice item of clothing if it's special. So I did buy this really nice dress. It's the nicest dress I own. I bought it when we were in Europe, my husband and I, in Switzerland, and it's like a storybook, just beautiful, beautiful dress, and it's a very special occasion. Okay, I'm gonna buy something in a store, right? And we were going to Versailles. I had never been to Paris before, and I never, of course, never been to Versailles. And we were thinking, okay, we're going to this place of this historic venue, this historic place of opulence and luxury. I mean, they have the Hall of Mirrors there, which at the time, it was really a luxury to have a mirror, and they filled this entire hall with gold-plated mirrors and chandeliers, and so you're going to this place. Imagine if you're a human unrestrained when it comes to money. At that time, that's basically what they were living like. Like, every extravagance they wanted, they put it in Versailles. And so we said, "Let's wear our fanciest outfits," and because that's where we're going, is a fancy place, right? Even though you're a tourist, you're going there to see things. We're going to a fancy place. Let's get dressed up. And it was so much fun. We took some of the best photos. We had the best day hanging out there in our nice clothes. And so this is my point about sometimes like dressing in a way that's appropriate for the occasion, like Easter Sunday or something, or the place you're going, and it elevates your mood. It makes it feel more special. You're marking the fact that it is a special day or a special place in your attire, which elevates your mood and the mood of people who come into contact with you. Because as you found, Mrs. A, people compliment you. They smile. They're like, "Wow, that looks so cool, what you're wearing." And it's sort of why don't more people do it then? I think it must just be that self-consciousness maybe that people have that's holding them back. But I highly recommend dressing for the occasion and for the place. Okay, so here's an article that it mentions some interesting studies, and I have some of these pulled up. 5 ways your clothes are subtly influencing the ways you think and behave. Number 1, your clothes can influence your actions. And then there's a quote here. However, today we're seeing a rise in psychologists recognizing and exploring the influence what we wear can have. For example, studies have recently revealed that what you wear can indeed influence how you act by the fact that people will embody certain traits and actions that they associate with certain clothing. Now, this is so interesting, this study here. An experiment asked a group of people to perform certain tests. One section of the group was wearing their ordinary clothes, and the other was told to wear a doctor's white lab coat. So they dressed people as doctors. The group wearing a doctor's coat performed much better on the tests, leading psychologists to believe that this was because they were embodying how they felt a doctor would perform. Isn't that incredible? That could be the reason is you dress like a doctor and it's influencing your mood and how you think of yourself, and you're doing math and you do better at math suddenly a little bit. Um, some guy in the comments on Twitter, he spoke to this when I announced today's show. He said, "This is completely true. You know, how you dress affects your psychology, affects your mindset and your performance." And he said, "I tell this to men all the time." He said, "Men who've given up on the dating world, blue collar guys, I tell them, put on a nice sport jacket, you know, dress business casual, put on a nice sport jacket and go on that blind date." And the results are completely different because they have a different, more confident mindset being in a suit jacket than you do in a t-shirt and flip-flops. We noticed this, my husband and I, out in the hill country of Texas quite a bit. We both work out there a lot, and you will see lots of groups out there. There's a lot of wineries out there and music venues, and it's a great place to take a day trip. But you will sometimes see people on dates out there, and where the girl has put effort in, the woman's put some effort in and looks really nice, and then the guy's wearing like like my husband has his casual outfit, right? He wouldn't wear that casual outfit on a date. And some of these guys are wearing the casual outfit, like gym shorts and flip-flops with a backwards baseball cap on the date. It's so like, what are you doing? Like, this is your first impression, dude. You're coming in all sloppy, you know? These things matter. I know it sounds like, oh, this is such a superficial. So to some people, this will sound, oh, it's a superficial thing to be concerned about. It's superficial to make looks and the way people dress and aesthetics the number one priority. Absolutely, it is. If that's all you care about and how you look and how you're perceived, yes, that's superficial and narcissistic. But it is a priority. And what I'm arguing is that in today's society, it's fallen down on that priority list a lot to where people aren't paying as much attention to it, and it's affecting the way they feel about themselves individually and as a people, as a culture. That's what I think. So, so this study showed that when people wore the doctor's lab coat, they performed better on tests. This belief that performance can indeed be affected by what we're wearing is now referred to as enclothed cognition. I had never heard that expression before, enclothed cognition. Number 2, clothing can improve your performance at work. However, it has not been proved how long the effects of this enclosed cognition last for. So just wearing certain clothes that you associate with positive work might not be a long-term strategy to employ, he adds. But if you're at interview stage, studies have shown that even the smallest detail in the way you dress can affect how people perceive you when it first comes to first impressions. Research by the University of Hertfordshire found that men were most likely to be seen as confident and successful when wearing a bespoke, made to measure suit rather than an off the peg high street version. So, wearing like a handmade suit has even a slight difference, makes a slight difference in how people perceive you. So, if you're going, the advice I would take from this, if I were a man, is if you're going for something really important, like that job interview or something, maybe you get a prestigious speaking engagement or something where you want to look your very best, you know, pay attention to That's when you wear the nicest thing. That's when you wear that thing you splurged on, Number 3, your clothes can boost your mood, but there's a catch. Research sheds some light on the link between low mood and clothing, but findings from psychological research are often subject to chicken and egg questions. What came first, the genes or the low mood? He says. Correlation doesn't imply causality, of course. If everything else is going right for you, a bit of dressing down won't automatically kill your mood. That's common sense. That makes sense. We've all been there. You feel really good. You're wearing something casual. Who cares? It's not going to bother you. On the other side of the coin, though, this is where it matters. If you're feeling low already, then it matters what you wear. It says on the other side of the coin, it's probably unwise to expect the handbags and the glad rags to keep you glad forever, as the buzz you get from an internet bought dress fitting you perfectly won't outlast the negativity of maxing out your credit card. Oh, well, that's true. This is a different, I thought there was going to be a different point made here. I think that's later in the article. But this point is true too. As I mentioned, be thrifty about what you're buying, of course. If you're spending outside of your means, then any mood elevation that you get from dressing nicely is going to be depleted severely when you start to deal with the reality of now you're in debt. So don't do that. I think that sometimes people misplace this sort of this very good intention of wanting to look their best and wanting to present well. They confuse that with spending a lot of money, and those two things are not the same. You don't have to spend a lot of money to look nice. I mean, that's why we started with the feed sack clothing, so you can see that. You don't have to spend a lot of money to look nice. This part was interesting. This part, number 4, your gym wear can make your workouts better. In a nutshell, what you wear, and in a nutshell, you are what you wear, and if you dress like a fitness pro, you probably will start acting like one. The color of your workout gear should also alter your performance. Red has been proven to affect sporting ability, as it reminds humans of dominance and testosterone that is seen in the animal world. A recent study revealed that sports people who wear red are more likely to win. Isn't that interesting? A study also showed that what you wear for sport can affect what people think of you and what they believe you're capable of. When presented with 2 runners, for example, one wearing tight-fitting clothing and the other in loose-fitting clothing, people thought that the runner in the tight-fitting clothing would be faster and have stronger athletic abilities. Number 5, clothes can boost your confidence. Well, actually, let me pause right here. This is a good place to show you, because that thing about red is so interesting, and so I have this pulled up. John says, "Not true. NCSU does not win all the time." It's not enough to win all the time. No. So here's an article on color psychology, which I also find interesting. Color psychology and how color affects your emotions and why. So I started thinking about color, of course, because we're renovating this house. And actually I started thinking about it a little bit before in my old house, my little house, when I was painting the rooms. I wanted to do what Jordan Peterson talks about, which is to design each room for its use, so that your mind is less cluttered and you're more streamlined and focus on what the use of that room is. So for example, a lot of people would say that it probably shouldn't have a television in your bedroom, because the bedroom is for relaxation and restoration and sleeping, and television is a different activity than that. And now I know there are people who like to fall asleep while watching TV, but I'm saying that's a little bit outside the norm. And so for the most part, I think if you have a TV in the bedroom, you might start spending too much time watching TV in that room. It becomes more of a TV watching room than it does this sort of haven for sleep and restoration. That's just a rule of thumb. I know people even in the chat will probably say, well, I don't agree. Okay, that's okay. But that's sort of the idea about designing a room for what it's for. And if you want to write more, set up your study or your living space so that you have room that is going to encourage you to sit and write so that you feel comfortable sitting there and writing more. Set the room up for what it's intended for. And so when I started doing this in my old place and in this place, as we're renovating each room, I thought a lot about the color, and I was looking online at what the different colors, if they have any psychological effect on you. And some studies say that they do. So the yellow, the bright and cheerful colors, sometimes people put in, the kitchen, and more soothing colors like a light or paler yellow or a light blue or something in the bedroom. I love light blue. I find it very calming and relaxing. So that was the color at my old studio in my old house. It's the color we finally did this room because it just makes me feel a little bit more serene. Here, let's read some of this. Color psychology, how color affects your emotions and why. If you walk into a room or open a web page, your brain will process the colors before any words or shapes. We are walking through a world of color, receiving a constant subconscious stream of emotional signals and information. In this post, you'll learn how to decode how different colors impact you and learn to strategically use colors in your wardrobe, home, and business to your advantage. Color psychology is the study of how different colors impact your emotions and behavior. For example, the color of your shirt can affect both your mood and how others might perceive you. What color should you wear on a date versus a job interview? What color should you put in your marketing campaign? How's the color of your home affecting you, etc. I'm going to just scroll down past some of this to what they say about some of the colors. So blue, loyalty, stability, tranquility. Again, blue does make me feel tranquil and relaxed. So at least that one seems to be true to me anecdotally in my experience. Red, passion, aggression, intense. Red is like one of the creative colors. Like they say, aggression. It's so interesting. We just read in that article that athletes who wear red perform a little bit better. Passion. Yeah. So we painted our music parlor kind of a deep wine red because it's that color of creativity and passion. It's intense. And so I wouldn't want that color red in I wouldn't want that color red anyway in my working space. I don't need to feel all this. I want to feel it, when I'm there listening to music in the piano room and we have friends over and, you have it in that space where people are going to be hanging out. Right. But not in this room. Not in this room or not in the bedroom. Happiness, yellow, happiness, optimism, youth. Green, healing, success, and hope. Black, power, mystery, professional. Purple, royalty, spirituality, luxury. Brown, stability, natural, reliability. Orange, energy, fun, and warmth. White, purity, cleanliness, innocence. There's a whole home renovation trend that started several years ago, I guess. I don't keep up on the trends too much, but I know that people who were really into Joanna, what's her name, the Magnolia couple, pretty close to us actually in Waco, Texas. That couple that renovates all the homes, and her style is very white and clean and farmhouse style. And so that evokes a sense of, when you look at it, cleanliness, purity. And then this last one here is gray, neutral, practical, and quiet. That's all. I'm not going to spend too much time on the color stuff today because I'm mostly talking about clothing, but I thought that was interesting about athletes wearing the color red. Okay, I'm going back to this one. Here we go. Number 5, clothing can boost your confidence. In her book, Mind What You Wear, Professor Karen Pine describes how women who were given a math test performed worse when wearing a swimsuit than when wearing a jumper. Yes, of course, this goes back to dressing appropriately for the situation, the location, the event. And that makes complete sense to me that if I'm wearing a bathing suit and I'm not in a pool or at the beach, I'm going to be self-conscious, and part of my mind is going to be consumed with that, and I'm probably not going to do as great on my math test. And so this is an extreme example because they're doing a study, right? And they're trying to see how does it affect you. So they're going to take the extreme and put you in a bathing suit and see how you do on the math test, right? But just sort of to prove to see, to test if this has any effect at all, you'll take the extremes. So yeah, they found women in a bathing suit did worse on the math test. According to Lloyd, rather than there being a magical color or style of clothing to wear, yeah, there's no one solution, right? And there's no one magical clothing or style solution. But um, rather than there being a magical solution, um, that will instantly make you feel amazing, his suggestion is to focus on what works for you and make the most of that. Quote, for example, if there was a time when you felt particularly confident about yourself and what you were wearing, try taking one item from that outfit and weave it into a new outfit. The positive associations you have with that one item of clothing should transfer to your new outfit, making you feel amazing all over again. I would go further than that and say, rather than just taking something from that outfit, figure out why that outfit made you feel confident in that moment. What was it? Was it maybe it was because it was very flattering on your body type. Um, Maybe it was because it was a suit jacket that made you feel confident. I think about this even, I had this event this weekend. When I think about how to dress at an event, I sometimes wear skirts, but I've learned to wear long skirts if I'm gonna wear a skirt because I never know what the stage is gonna be like. And there was one time at an event where I had a knee length skirt on, and then the stools were like high chairs, like high stools. And so I sat down and was like, no, because immediately I'm like thinking I might accidentally flash someone. This is not gonna work. I'm not gonna be able to concentrate. I'm not gonna do a good job. So I went home and changed change clothing, and it was worth it to go home. I had time, and it was worth it to do that, to dress more appropriately. And so now I know I never wear the short kneeling skirts just in case I'm sitting in a place or a way that's going to make me, on stage that where I'm uncomfortable. um I typically will wear, like I said, a long, like, ankle length skirt, or wear, pants for that reason. But then also I like wearing, you're in a professional setting, so I like business casual look for women, like a nice top or t-shirt with a suit jacket or something. If you're at an event like that, that's appropriate for the event. It's going to make you feel more confident because you're dressing appropriately. I've got an example of something here that I think is not appropriate. This was in the news recently, and people somebody mentioned this to me. I think it was on Twitter. Jeff Bezos, he left his didn't he get a divorce, and so he started dating this woman, Lauren Sanchez. I think is she a reporter? What is she? Anyway, they were recently invited to the White House for this dinner, and all these headlines. Lauren Sanchez stuns in racy red corset dress with Jeff Bezos at the White House state dinner. The couple joined the Bidens and other luminaries in welcoming Japan's prime minister. Now, you're there to welcome the head of state. Whether or not you have respect for the president, I think you should have respect for the office of the presidency, for what it stands for it's going to be there. It was there before Biden. It'll be there after Biden. It was there before Trump. It'll be there after Trump. Knock on wood that it'll still be there after these guys. Like, sometimes I wonder about the future, what's going to happen to this country. But the office of the presidency, you're there with the head of state, and you're welcoming them. And I do not think I agree with the people. I don't think this is nitpicking. I think this is actually it's very relevant to the topic today. This has to do with the hedonism influence on culture, in my opinion. Not the nihilistic influence, but the hedonistic influence. This dress, it is a corset dress. It's cut so just above the nipple, just above that part of the boob. got the boobs pushed up where they're almost spilling out. It's like the kind of dress, the top anyway, that you would see in a brothel and in Old West, which I love Old West movies. I love movies that have scenes in brothels even. But this is not what you wear to a nice to show respect to a nice dinner at the White House. Like, this is over the top sexualized. This is you going in there to make a statement like, go to the club in that dress, go to the sex club in that dress, go to the brothel in that dress. But it's not appropriate for a White House dinner where you're welcoming a head of state. I'm sorry. Thank you, D sub. It's not just me, is it? I mean, I know it's not just me because somebody tagged me in it with the same opinion. D sub says, oof, that's not a formal dress at all. No, it's a hoe. It's saying I am a hoe. I'm here at the White House dressed as a hoe. Like, and even the thing is, I like it. It's flattering on her, not for this occasion. That's what's wrong with this. It's not appropriate. Go out to the club in that, go to some sexy event, some, red carpet. I don't know, but this is it just I think the people who criticize this were right. And in this case, it's about the appropriateness for the occasion and for the situation and the activity. And you're wearing a brothel dress to the White House. Texas Sheep Lady, what an insult to the Japanese official. Yeah, and just I mean, I think an insult to herself. I mean, it's to me, it screams thirsty. Like, I need to dress like I'm going to the sex club for attention, even though I'm going to the White House. Like, again, if you're going to the sex club, fine, wear it to the sex club, but you're going to the White House, so that screams thirsty to me. Like, I need to be seen as a sexual being. I need people to think I'm hot, even at this event, Look at the grocery store. I need people to think I'm sexy. Like, you're at the grocery store. You're at a respectful event at the White House. Yeah. So that's my example of not dressing appropriately for the location, situation, and event. Let me see. I've got so many things. Okay, here's another good one. This is on the same this is an even better article with a few more things I want to pull out about like different studies that were done and how the way we dress affects our mood, our performance, and people's perception of us. So this one is from Scientific American. This article's a little old now, but doesn't make the information any less true. From 2016, Dress for Success: How Clothes Influence Our Performance. What you wear can influence your thinking and negotiating skills, even your negotiating skills, and even hormone levels and your heart rate. Think about that, hormone levels. Pretty interesting for today, right? The old advice to dress for the job you want, not the job you have, may have roots in more than simply how others perceive you, which it does, by the way, how others perceive you. Many studies show that the clothes you wear can affect your mental and physical performance. Although such findings about so-called enclothed cognition are mostly from small studies in the laboratory that have not yet been replicated or investigated in the real world. By the way, this was 2016. This was 8 years ago. There have been a lot more studies on this now. A growing body of research suggests there's something biological happening when we put on a snazzy outfit and feel like a new person. If you want to be a big ideas person at work, suit up. A paper in August 2015 in Social Psychological and Personality Science asked subjects to change into formal or casual clothing before cognitive tests. Wearing formal business attire increased their abstract thinking, an important aspect of creativity and long-term strategizing. You guys know that. We all know this. It's sort of, when you hear something true and you're presented with evidence or a study to support it, but it just validates something you already know to be true in your gut or your heart because you've experienced it, even if you've never thought about it, like sat and consciously thought about it, but you know it to be true because when you get dressed up, like if you're feeling depressed, for example, which all of us, that's a human thing. It's a temporary thing that people go through. If you've ever been in that depressed state, the number one bit of advice I've heard about that is make yourself get out of bed and take a shower and put on clothes. If you're depressed, it's like the worst thing you can do is stay in bed or stay in your pajamas all day. It's going to keep you in that state of mind longer. And if you get up and take a shower and get dressed like a adult human being, it's going to elevate your mood slightly and help you get out of that state of depression. We all know this. So this is talking about how dressing up in business attire also helps you to be more creative, to engage in abstract thinking, and to strategize. Informal clothing may hurt in negotiations. In a study reported in December in 2014, the Journal of Experimental Psychology, male subjects wore their usual duds or were placed in a suit or in sweats. Then they engaged in a game that involved negotiating with a partner. Those who dressed up attained more profitable deals than the other two groups, and those who dressed down had lower testosterone levels. Isn't that incredible? This is relating to hormones. I think, one of men's testosterone rates have really fallen off since the 60s. Look at the stats. I've looked at them before on this channel. It's incredible. It's just like a total slope down since the 60s, the average testosterone rate. And if you think that doesn't have an effect on culture, I don't think you're thinking very deeply. It has an effect on our culture, on our communities, on our society, on our politics, on everything. And there are probably lots of different reasons. There's not just one thing you can point to about that. There's a lot that we can look at in terms of chemicals and look at our food production and what we're eating and I'm thinking of Alex Jones here. What is it he was saying about, is it fluoride turning the frogs gay? What was he? but there's a lot of truth and a lot of different things you can point to that's affected that testosterone rate and caused declining rates of testosterone in men. But here's just a little simple thing. The way in which you dress can affect your testosterone level potentially. If you're dressing like a slob, you're going to feel like a slob. For better focus, get decked out like a doctor. And then they mentioned that same study, the research published in 2012 in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, where subjects half of them wore a white lab coat and they performed better on tests because they were wearing that doctor's coat, which is very interesting. Inspired by findings that winning combat fighters in the 2004 Olympics had worn red more often than blue, researchers investigated the psychological effects of wearing these colors. They paired 28 male athletes of similar age and size who competed against one another while wearing a red jersey and while wearing blue. Compared with fighters in blue, those wearing red were able to lift a heavier weight before the match and had higher heart rates during the match, but they were not more likely to be victorious. Interesting. Trying too hard to look sharp can backfire. When women donned expensive sunglasses and then were told the specs were counterfeit as opposed to when they thought they were real, they cheated more often on lab experiments with cash payouts. Is that crazy or what? How that affects your psychology? If they're wearing expensive looking glasses and then they're told, wait a minute, we tricked you, those glasses, you're wearing fakes, they're more likely to cheat on a lab experiment. Fake sunglasses also seem to make women see others' behavior as suspect. Authors of this study, published in May of 2010 in Psychological Science, theorize that counterfeit glasses increase unethical behavior by making their wearers feel less authentic. I've got a tip for you. This is just my personal aesthetic. It may not fit with yours. Maybe you really like designer sunglasses. In which case we're going to disagree. I already told you where I put my money. I do really like handmade boots. I don't care about sunglasses. Why do you care about brand name sunglasses? I don't understand it. Help it make it make sense to me. If that's your thing, actually, truly, more power to you. Just I don't understand that one. Maybe there's stuff about it I just don't know about it, like with boots. I don't know. Maybe there's the name brand glasses are better for you, and maybe they have more UV protection or something. So I don't know, but don't I would say though, don't really worry about name brand stuff. You know, a brand only matters if it's because it's proven to be good quality and very reliable. And even then, the brand name only extends so far. A good example again is in cowboy boots, you know? Some of the best name brands in handmade cowboy boots, that, that used to be the gold standard, like Lucchese, they still charge exorbitant prices or pretty high prices, for poorer quality than they used to produce. They're making parts of the boots in factories now, but they're still charging because of that name, Lucchese, So brands are they only mean something if they represent a pattern of quality that you can count on and rely on. Sometimes the brand name, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It just means it's famous, and who cares about that, you know? The red sneakers effect. It's not news to anyone that we judge others based on their clothes. In general, studies that investigate these judgments find that people prefer clothing that matches expectations. Again, this has to do with dressing for what expectations? What's that? The place you're at, the event, the situation, dressing respectfully in a church, for example, dressing differently in the church than you do in the grocery store, like having it's situation dependent. People prefer surgeons in scrubs, little boys in blue, with one notable exception. A series of studies published in 2014 in the Journal of Consumer Research explored observers' reactions to people who broke established norms only slightly. In one scenario, a man at a black tie affair was viewed as having higher status and competence when wearing a red bow tie. The researchers also found that valuing uniqueness increased audience members' ratings of the status and competence of a professor who wore red Converse sneakers while giving a lecture. Oh, those things totally work. This part here, if you have a nice, like for example, at the conference, I have a couple of pairs of we'll go back to the cowboy boot example of red cowboy boots. Everybody should have one pair of red cowboy boots, I believe. And you can wear like a nice business casual outfit, and maybe it's kind of muted and nothing really stands out, but you feel good and confident in it for whatever the job is you're supposed to do. And then you put on a nice pair of red cowboy boots. Boom, there's your little accent piece. There's your cool, fun little thing that the eyes are drawn to, that is unique and makes you happy when you look at it. When you look down at a pair of red sneakers, I don't have any red Converse sneakers, but I'm sure it's the same as the boots. When you look down at a pair of red boots, you just feel good. You're like, those are fun, right? So this is about degrees of altering the aesthetics for the situation. So at a black tie event, for example, they're saying the one guy who wore the red bow tie stood out, and that people evaluated him higher because he had one little thing that was different and unique, but he wasn't wearing a red corset dress with boobs spilling out. It's not over the top different, it's not like a black tie affair and then someone coming in dressed in flip-flops and torn, you know, uh, gym shorts. It's not that different. Um, I think we can all understand what that means. It says the results suggest that people judge these slight deviations from the norm as positive because they suggest the individual is powerful enough to risk the social costs of such behaviors. That article's very interesting. The studies mentioned in that one are linked. You can read through these with more info on the study about the doctors and how that increases performance, like dressing like a doctor, how interesting that is. I'm not gonna pull those up right now. Instead, let's see, I'm gonna go to this part. Okay. Hey, Real Raven 2000. He says, I loved my orange Nikes, Carrie. Yes, exactly. Those are the little pieces that make you feel happy and joyful, that add to your mood during the day. Those are the little things I think you should feel free to be creative with and experiment with, and of course, like, add those things in, and don't worry about what people are gonna think, because those things make you happy, and I think you're gonna find out that people like them, and they're like, "I like your orange sneakers, those are cool." You know? I completely get that. I've never had orange Nikes or orange sneakers, but I think it's similar to my red boots, that it's just like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun to wear." Randy. Hey, Randy, for $5. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Steve Martin used to put bologna in his shoes. He said that when he was on stage, it made him feel funny. I did not know this. I actually read a Steve Martin biography, but it's been so many years and I don't remember that. That's what a cool little fact. And you can see how that, if that's true, you can see how that works. Because the whole time he's up there thinking, it would affect your mood, like wearing the doctor's outfit would affect your mood or the way you think of yourself just slightly. He's got this bologna in his shoes and nobody knows about it, and it probably helped him feel like, "Yes, I am a comedian. Yes, I am funny. I'm a silly person. I've got meat in my shoes." That's so funny. Thank you for that, John. Orange, you glad, Carrie? Yes. I thank you for the pun. I am glad. Okay, this part, let me get to this. Martin Luther King. Now, Martin Luther King is someone that the modern left, the social justice left, actually he doesn't have a lot in common with them at all. And yet, they haven't completely turned against him yet. I think because they know his name and his impact, his legacy on society is so strong that they want to try and co-opt him and claim him. However, social justice ideology, which is not liberalism, social justice and woke ideology believes in collectivism. They believe in a collective group identity and instead of individualism. They believe that the color of your skin does matter. You know, his most famous speech, the thing that he's most well known for, the speech about how he has a dream that one day his children live in a world where they're judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. That's the exact antithesis to social justice, which says, no, we should judge people based on the color of their skin, not the content of their character. Social justice says we have to judge and treat people differently on race, based on race and sex and sexuality and all these different identity groups. We have to we have to judge and treat them differently on that basis until we get to a place where we don't have to do that anymore. That's their retarded, frankly, reasoning on that. I've heard that everyone's reclaiming the word retarded now. So, like, I'm I'm part of it. Let's do it. It's a silly. It's not. It does not mean what they. It's not. It's not talking about mentally handicapped people. It's like when you're in middle school. It's a silly pejorative. Um. Anyway, it is slow or retarded reasoning to say that racism will cure racism, and that is not what MLK preached. MLK was all about actual inclusivity. Social justice is about exclusivity, although because they engage in um, projection, manipulation, and Orwellian speak, they often name things the opposite of what they are. They say they're about inclusion, but if you look at what that means in practice for them, it means exclusion. They're all about us and them, putting people in groups based on group status. Treat this group of people, treat people who are this race or this sex this way, treat other people this way. They're all about separation and division. Martin Luther King was about actual inclusion. He used inclusive language, we, us. He encouraged white people to see black people as their brothers and neighbors and to see them as as themselves. Like the very way he spoke was about speaking to the better nature of man and about us collectively meaning all of us, not groups based on identity, being equal. Like he appealed to that part of human nature about what unites us. Social justice appeals to what divides us. It's all about what divides us. And one of the things he did is he gave instructions for people who came out to marches and protests with him and rallies with him, peaceful demonstrations. He told them to wear their Sunday dress, their Sunday finest. He specifically told people to dress nicely, like they're going to an interview or like they're going to church. He was always wearing a suit. You can see this picture of him here. And most of the people in this crowd are dressed in their Sunday best. Why did he do this? Because he knew about the psychology of appearance and clothing and how it would not only help the people there feel about themselves and feel about what they're engaged in and the righteousness of it and the rightness of it and the respectability of it, but it would also affect the way others perceived them and perceived the rallies, the protests and rallies and marches. It's the same thing we're talking about. It would affect the way the protesters thought of themselves and the way others thought of the protesters. And so they were dressed up. This is an article called the 1963 March on Washington Dress Code. You can see all the men there wearing, you know, suits, shirts and ties, all the women, lots of hats on the men and the women. When you look at photos of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963, notice the men. Among the 250,000 people who came to the Capitol from all over the country, a huge percentage of the men were in suits and ties. Though personal accounts of the weather that day recall unbearably hot temperatures in the 90s, the National Weather Service reported a high of 83 degrees that day. One can imagine, though, the excitement of it all making the day feel like no other. Regardless of the temperature, the men, both black and white men, showed up in suits and ties, in sharp contrast to our modern day mode of mental patient casual. That's exactly what a great way to describe the protesters today, the woke protesters today, mental patient casual, rubber shoes, elastic waistbands, etc. The men in those years had markedly sharper sense of occasion. We're talking about occasion, dressing for the occasion, right? Occasion, as demonstrated most recently on the television show Mad Men, for example. Beyond the sense of occasion, a suit and tie was regular gear for many of these men. There was an unprecedented importance to the day. These men had ulterior motives for suiting up. And you can see a group of the protesters there at the march, the Washington March for Jobs and Freedom, all dressed in suits and bow ties and suits and ties, and the women in dresses. On a recent story on NPR's Morning Edition, Jack Hansen recalled his experience as a demonstrator at the march. A white husband and father of young sons, he was one of 500 Cincinnati businessmen and civic activists who took a special two-night train to Washington, D.C. with a mission. Here's something he said. We had to get rid of this. I don't know how you would say it, this discrimination that was so prevalent in communities like our education system and our churches. So participating in the march was like climbing a mountain. And for us, we wanted to be on top. About the dress code, Hansen recalled how all the men dressed, not just at the march, but on the train there and back. Quote, we were all dressed politely. Politely. He uses the word politely. We're all dressed politely, like we're going to an office. Shirts and ties. In fact, marchers were encouraged by local organizing committees to look clean and sharp, dressed as if they were in DC to, quote, close a deal, end quote. And they did. That they did, looking like men of respect and dignity, men who demanded to be taken seriously, men with whom to be reckoned. You can see another picture there. At the very end of this article, he says, I suspect that many special interest groups today looking for recognition and respect, demanding to be taken seriously and seeking to, quote, close a deal, would do well to borrow from this advice, right? And they don't. Today's activists dress like mental patient casual. I'm going to share just one more quick tab about MLK. This is actually from a tuxedo website, Fine Tuxedos, the daring and dashing MLK Jr. I just liked this part right here because they spend this whole paragraph describing the ways in which MLK and his contemporaries dressed. And three-piece suits, white formal dress shirt, French cuffs, black Oxfords, sometimes seen striking a fedora, really nice hat. He was fashion forward. And this part here, Dr. King understood the value of a well-tailored ensemble, knowing that a good fit will make a good impression. The way you present yourself is extremely important. People will be more invested in what you have to say if you are dressed elegantly. And this made me think of Billboard Chris. Billboard Chris, I think Billboard Chris does such a great job at what he does. He's been on the show. If you haven't seen it, he was the first one-on-one interview I did on Deprogrammed. And you can go in the archives on Deprogrammed interviews and watch that. He came to Texas also, and I got to go out on the street with him a little bit. And in New York, at New York Pride, I got to go on the street with him. He wears the sandwich boards with his message. He's there to have one-on-one conversations with people about gender ideology and about the harms of surgically and medically altering children in the name of trans, right? And he always wears a suit jacket. No matter the temperature, he always looks clean, crisp, well put together. And I would argue that if you watch his videos and some of the crazy leftists in some of the videos, that he's got great conversations, but then he's also got footage of crazy leftists screaming at him and not wanting to engage and sometimes physically assaulting him. And it's such a stark contrast to look at how well put together he is. And I think it probably helps him maintain his calm and maintain his dignity and not lose his temper when he is being confronted with aggression, screams, insults, and sometimes physical attacks. But I think his mode of dress is in stark contrast to the people attacking him, who dress like mental patients, who dress sloppily, who dress in sexually suggestive outfits, nihilism and hedonism, right? Affecting the ways in which they dress. And then you've got him looking, barring from MLK, looking fresh, clean, crisp, presentable, dignified, respectful. And that's the way he carries himself as well. I think it's related. I've got a picture here. Actually, a few pictures. Now, some of you guys have seen these before. These are before and afters. Before social justice and after social justice. This is going to be interesting. Thank you for the super chat. Laura, who's been a member for 10 months, she says, Alex P. Keaton was always dressed for success. Yes, he was. This is aging us, Laura. Take a page from Alex P. Keaton. Family Ties, always dressed for success. I love it. Thank you for supporting Deprogrammed. John is back. Hey, John, a member for 9 months. Men should own at least one fitted suit. I absolutely agree. You have to have that one special occasion outfit that you bring out for something truly special. I completely agree. Thank you for supporting Deprogrammed. Randy Wallen for $2. Thank you again, Randy. He says, do you value Keri's show? Send a few bucks. Value for value. Thank you so much, Randy. I should do that more often. I should say, yes, if you like the show, you can support the show. Here, you can do it at YouTube. You can do it at Subscribestar. You can set up to do a monthly recurring membership for as little as $1 a month. You can do it at Locals or Patreon. And we appreciate all the support. Benjamin Boyce, as I mentioned, was just here and he told me I definitely need to get that new camera. So that's the next thing I'm going to be buying thanks to the supporters. Been looking at different options and had a little setback because of some medical costs, but the camera's coming soon. Beyond that, my goals with the show eventually is I would like to be able to hire Mystery Chris full time and also be able to produce comedy videos more often. We'll see if that happens. But those are some of the goals. It's completely voluntary. I don't think I'll ever put shows behind a paywall. We'll have certain special things just for members, though. But I don't want to do one of those subscription platforms that people do where you have to buy a subscription to see everything, because it's sort of like, no, I want this to reach as many people as it can, as possible, and for people to see it, because I think social justice is the biggest existential threat facing our country, facing our culture. So that'll never happen. Uh, Real Raven 2000. Sure thing. Good idea, Randy. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Real Raven. I don't even know what those dollars, what are those? Is that the euro? 12 euros? No, I don't. Yeah, it is. I think it is. Thank you, sir. I'm just going to call it lira. It's lira. JBO5 for $2. Good idea, Randy. Love the content, Carrie. Thank you so much. Thank you, Randy. Look what you started. I appreciate it. And KV's back. Member for 4 months. I remember the Dress for Success book from the 80s. I should read that one because I'm really fascinated by this stuff lately. I've been thinking a lot about it. And there's another book I have pulled up I was going to show you guys. But thank you, KB. Thanks for supporting Deprogrammed. Cheeky Mare says a 3-piece suit is the best. For your fancy suit, yes. If you have one special occasion suitman, make it a 3-piece suit. Okay. So this thing I have pulled up is, some of you have seen this. There's a lot of these kind of in the troll kind of world and the anti-woke world. These photo spreads sometimes go viral, and you've probably seen some of these. This is a collection of them. And they often get called funny but truthful things, before and after woke or before and after social justice. This one's called Before and After Third Wave Feminism. Third Wave Feminism, which is a part of social justice. Social justice is that you can think of it like an umbrella ideology that says the best way to operate in the world is to believe that the world is a competition for power based on identity groups, that everything's organized around power, and that we need to redistribute power based on identity group, and then we'll reach equality. That's what social justice and woke is all about. So underneath that umbrella, you naturally have all these different identity group movements. You've got the queer theory and the queer activism part. You've got critical race theory. They've pulled in what the remnants of what used to be the civil rights movement after it achieved its goals. They've pulled that in. They've pulled in feminism after it achieved its goals, with the suffragettes of getting the right of women to vote. They've pulled in feminism, and all of these different identity-based movements have been in some ways corrupted by the husks of these movements have been taken over by social justice, almost like a parasite that moves in and then operates what was left of these movements. That's what happened with feminism. That's the way I think of it. It's like a zombie operated by social justice. So this article is called Women Before and After Third Wave Feminism. And now these are meant to be, I know some people find these really funny. They're also sad. They're also truthful. And there's something to this. This is not just cherry picked. This is absolutely true. In my own experience, I noticed this in the movement, and especially having left social justice after 20 years in it. I've got a photo spread to show you of myself before and after, or during and after woke to show you. It affects your mood being in a belief system that's all about power and resentment and group identity and arrogance and narcissism, which is what it is, racism and sexism. It changes the way you think about yourself and the world, and that cannot help but be reflected in your outward appearance. Plus, if you add to that, one of the identity dimensions in which social justice or woke people say that people are oppressed is in what they call pretty privilege. You can look up articles on this. I have some pulled up, but they really say that it's unfair if you're not pretty, that you're oppressed, and that if you're pretty, you are privileged. And therefore, I think a lot of the women in this movement uglify themselves so that they can be part of an oppressed group. Look, we're ugly now. Like, I think they really are kind of like, they don't want to be seen as having any extra privilege, especially if they're already in several of the so-called privileged groups, the oppressor groups, like if they're white and straight or they come from a middle class family and they want to be in as few of those oppressor groups as possible. So if they're also pretty, they're going to uglify themselves. So I could be one of the people. I'm an ally. Look at me. Look how ugly I made myself. This really happens, whether they're consciously doing it or not. So let's scroll down. Before and after third wave feminism. These are pictures of the same people on the left and right. This girl looks lovely, pretty, cute on the left. After college, after feminism, she's gained a lot of weight. She's also shaved her whole head except for this mohawk. And objectively, I would argue, has uglified herself. Um, I know looks are in the eye of the beholder, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but some things you can objectively say you look worse now. Here's another girl on the left, feminine in a black dress, long hair. On the right, she's shaved her head and she's tattooed something. She's got a nose ring and has a huge head tattoo right in the center of her forehead. Here's another girl on the left, average, pretty, normal girl. On the right, of course, we're starting to see the brightly colored, the Easter egg color hair, which doesn't always mean social justice. I hate that they've claimed this so effectively that now people automatically assume it's a it's a good rule of thumb. It's one potential red flag to tell you what someone believes if you do see that hair color, but it doesn't always mean that. It doesn't always mean that. So, but this girl's got it. She's got the Easter egg hair. She's got the nose ring now. She's got some heavy makeup and a couple of face tattoos, a little heart and some other stuff going on the face. Oh, this poor girl. Attractive, normal girl on the left. Here on the right, she's got armpit hair that she's trying to lick with her tongue. She's got a safety pin stuck through her nose and is doing the eyes at the camera, what Slocum calls the borderline eyes. Actually, these are the sexy, alluring eyes. I forget what those are called. Here we've got another girl, beautiful, average, normal girl on the left. Perfectly fine looking, attractive. And then on the right, she's got the half-shaved head thing that a lot of them do, and her hair's pulled up, and she's got a dog collar choker on, tattoos. Here's another cute, lovely girl on the left. On the right, she's got the shaved head, bright blue, nose ring, it's almost like a uniform. It's if you see a few of these things together, then you start to put it, you're like, oh, okay. Cute average girl on the left. Here we go on the right. Armpit hair that she's showing the camera. Nose ring, lip rings, shaved head, all of it. Here's another one. I feel like these are all very similar. Pretty girl on the left, shaved head, post-feminism, post-woke look on the right. Why? Why are you uglifying yourself? But I know why. She's also got, what's his name? Baphomet, the devil, the goat tattooed on her leg there. Cute girl on the left. Here she is on the right. Pornified, shaved head, tongue kissing. And keep on scrolling. This girl on the left looks like Kirsten Dunst. She could be a doppelganger for Kirsten Dunst. Very cute on the right. Shaved head. And here's some more. Ugh, it's just depressing, right? I'm not gonna describe each of these because it's all the same. But also look at this one in particular. This girl here. Not only does she goes from looking lovely to gaining a lot of weight, but she's also wearing clothes that are not appropriate now for her size. Like, those shorts are not flattering. They're just not. I'm sorry. It's Daisy Dukes should only be worn by people who look like Daisy Duke. I don't wear Daisy Dukes anymore because it's not flattering on my leg or for my age. I might wear it in the privacy of my own home while I'm hanging out, or going to bed or something, but you don't wear that out and about. You don't take a picture of it and say, "Look, I look good in this." No, you don't look good in that. Like, you don't. She's got the cottage cheese thing happening there on the thighs. That's not attractive. I'm sorry, it's not. And we all struggle with different things. Weight is one thing that people struggle with. Some people like I struggle with alcohol. Everybody struggles with something different and to varying degrees. I struggle with working out right now and trying to keep myself in the gym. Absolutely. But I also don't take pictures of unflattering clothing and put them up like, "Hey," under the delusion that you look good and trying to force other people to participate in that delusion. It's sort of like with the trans thing. It's sort of forcing people to be a part of your delusion because it's not true and you need other people to say it is true so it feels more true to you. Those shorts are not flattering for those legs. She's also got lots of leg tattoos on the arms now, and she's wearing a bra. I mean, put a shirt on. Unless you're at the beach, like, what are you wearing? This is the hedonism part. This is like a little of both, probably nihilism and hedonism. I don't care about anything, so I'm gonna put these big, huge tattoos on my legs, and I'm gonna sexualize my outfit because it's gonna look super sexy. It's actually backfiring. I don't think there's anything sexy. It doesn't say sexy, it says sexual. It says I'm available for sex, but it doesn't say it actually doesn't say attractive. It just says available. Like, this is not on the right, if you were to put one word on this, it's not attractive, it's available. Here's another girl, similar thing, gained weight, suddenly wearing no clothes. Where are your pants? Where are your pants? You're just wearing panties. This poor girl, she looks so cute on the left. Look at her. And then here on the right, yeah, got the hair all done. Oh gosh, okay. Anyway, you get the point. You get the point that this happens, that this kind of your ideology, much like your ideology can affect your mood, which can affect the way you look. That's 100% true. And you see a lot of people in social justice who start to become more ugly and they're doing it to themselves by choice, whether they're consciously trying to or not. Look at this girl with the shaved head and the shaved eyebrows and everything. What are you doing to yourself? It's sort of like, look at me. Look at how I've uglified myself. There's a little bit of narcissism in it, even though it's uglifying. There's still look how ugly I've made myself. This is how much I care about social justice or feminism. It's like making a public display of, I think traditional beauty standards are bad. Look how much I think they're bad. Look how ugly I can make myself. Look at this cute girl. Look what happened to her. Your traditional beauty standards, right? That's what this is. You're trying too hard. We get it. You went way too far. Like, you went way too far. We get your point. Oh, this is really funny. I'm gonna end with this one, Rachel Maddow. This is not really fair, I don't think. I mean, I guess, but anyway, I think she looks okay for the style that she has, which is mannish. But they did throw in an old photo of her where she looked pretty feminine and elegant. I think she looks nicely dressed though, and she does. I don't like Rachel Maddow at all. I'm just saying she doesn't. I wouldn't put her on this list. I think this is kind of funny. It looks like a troll that they put her on this list. Okay. Yeah, don't dig them politics either, crunch for body. Savrix, hello, thanks for the super chat for $1.99 says, "Imagine being ugly and stupid." It's like they're showing you, right? They're really showing it off. Like, "Look how ugly I can make myself. Look how much I hate myself. I want you to see." I'm gonna show you a contrast. Not to say not out of this kind of like, uh, "Look how much better I look," but look how much better I look compared to how I used to look in that ideology. This is the point. So, I've shared this photo montage, what would you call it? Collage a few times because when I left social justice, so many things changed for me. My whole worldview changed, and I eventually became Christian. I quit drinking eventually, like, I got married. My whole life now is different from my life then. It's in the way I behave is different, the way I deal with trials is different. Um, back then when I was in social justice, I was on antidepressants for a while. A lot of people in social justice are on antidepressants. Um, I quit taking those years ago. I don't find that I need them. I don't need the alcohol anymore either. Um, my mood is better overall, but beyond my mood, because moods change. Happiness level, you're happy. It's normal you're not going to be happy 100% of the time. It's normal to be happy or sad. And these are a whole range of human emotions. Your mood is going to change. That is normal. But what's more important is underneath it, are you at peace? Are you at peace even in the dark times and when you're going through trials or when you're going through a sad mood? Are you content? Are you content? That's a better question to ask people. Are you happy is one thing, but do you have joy? That's a different question. Do you have contentment? Do you have peace? That's a different question. That's about something permanent, right? So I did not have peace and contentment when I was in social justice. And I didn't realize how much all of this was affecting my ideology, my messed up backwards ideology of social justice and woke, of looking at the world through this lens of saying the world's about a struggle for power among identity groups. We need to redistribute power. I didn't realize how much that belief system was leaving me empty and hollow and without meaning, without purpose. And it was affecting the way I dressed and the way I thought of myself. And I did uglify myself without even consciously thinking of it, without deciding to do it. I dressed a little more masculine than I do now, for sure. I cut my hair off really short, pretty much most of those 20 years. It was very short. I wore a lot of black, as I said, and just if you look at these pictures, I think you can even see at my happiest, some of my happiest supposed moments. I picked these ones on the left because this is when I got to meet some of my leftist heroes here on the left. So you would think I'd be beaming, right? No. Here I am without Franken on the left. I look like I'm scared. I think he got done dirty during Me Too. I feel like the left sacrificed him for some reason. I think maybe he was too sincere and they didn't have any dirt on him. I don't know why, but they threw him under a bus. And if you read through the allegations against him, they're ridiculous. I don't think he did anything wrong. And I shared this picture when he was being Me Too'd, and I did hashtag why not me. Nothing. Why didn't you grope me? I'm kidding. It's a joke about me. Do you get it? It's like, am I not good enough to be groped? Kidding. If you don't think that's funny, I think something's wrong with your humor meter. Some people didn't think it was funny. They're like, Keri, how dare you? I'm like, come on. I'm the butt of that joke, not women who've been actually groped. It's because I don't think any women were actually groped by him. One is a picture of him as a comedian on a USO tour, fake, like, hovering his hands above a fellow comedian's boobs, like he's touching them while she's sleeping, and it's posed. He took it for the camera. It's a joke photo. He's not groping her. Come on. It's a joke. And he got Me Too'd over stuff like that. Or some woman said, I took a photo with him, much like this photo, and she said, his hand hovered on my lower back too much. Like, what? Like, give me a break. So hashtag why not me, Al Franken. Yeah, so yes, thank you, Lily of the Fox Valley. You wonder what Al was refusing to do for the elites. I do too. I think he was sincere, and I think they just took him out. So anyway, Al Franken on the left. And look at me. I'm wearing all black. I don't look happy. There I am with Michael Moore. That's probably the happiest I look, but even there, it's muted. My smile looks fake to me. Um, it was like not a natural thing. And there I am with Margaret Cho, who I used to work with on the left, and then Howard Dean in the middle. That was at a work thing, but all of these were at work things. And there I am wearing all black again and short hair and looking pretty not joyful. Not joyful at this very joyful moment, right? And then these photos on the right. I mean, these are probably more than 10 years later. I think these are like 12 or 13 years later. And people have said first of all, you look younger in some ways. In some ways, I'm not delusional. But more youthful in terms of your smile is in your eyes, like people are like, your smile's legit. And you, oh, look at that picture of me and my fella there at the bottom. He's cut off and you can see little tiger's head. But this is on the right. I tend to wear more colorful things. I wear more fun things that make me happy and I I try to dress for the occasion because I think that's nice and fun to do and pleasing for me and others. And I don't know. I just look different. This is about how ideology affects you. On the left, you could look at this through the lens of on the left without Jesus, on the right with Jesus. Or you could look at it as on the left, woke, on the right, after woke, after leaving woke. Or you could look at it as on the left, alcoholic, right, after quitting drinking. I mean, there's lots of ways to look at it. But there's definitely something going on there, I think. And it's in contrast to those before and after pictures we saw of people in social justice. Judson says it's a return of vitality. Yes, I think so. I definitely think so. Joe says, oh, yeah, Joe. He says on the left, dying, on the right, living. Yes. Wow. What a great way to look at it, man. Seriously. Seriously. Tiger. My dog's down there scratching. Okay. I've got some other things pulled up, but I think I'm gonna wrap this up. We've been a little bit over 2 hours. I'm gonna wrap it up with this one because this is interesting. I think you guys will find it interesting. It's about the attitudes of Gen Z towards woke and aesthetics. Both of things that we're talking about that we're ending on, right? And it's a bit of potentially good news. This is from EV magazine, and it's from just a week or so ago. Gen Z believes that wokeism is only for ugly people. Are they right? That's the headline. Gen Z, the youngest, right? Gen Z, some people predict they're going to be the most conservative generation since the greatest generation. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But some people think they're going to react in opposition against the millennials, and we'll see what happens. So Gen Z believes wokeism is only for ugly people. Are they right? The cult of woke has certain aesthetic qualities, but if rumors are to be believed, they're falling out of fashion and fast. Okay, we're going to read a little bit of this to go out on. Quote, honestly, mom, kids my age all think that woke is only for ugly people, is allegedly what the 16-year-old son of Twitter user We All Need Jesus 1 said when she teased him that she wouldn't pay thousands of dollars for him to go to college and come home woke. The tweet went relatively viral for cluing internet users into the potential inner workings of a Gen Z brain. Is wokeness part and parcel of the youth experience, or is it actually quite passé and looked down upon like any other out-of-fashion trend? And here's the quote she's mentioning. No one really seems to know what woke means anymore. People in progressive circles have tried to reclaim it as part of the Black vernacular English lexicon, initially meaning someone who is aware of social or political injustices. People in conservative circles use it pejoratively and, well, liberally to mean anything that shifts the Overton window towards authoritative political correctness and identity politics. But textbook definition notwithstanding, we all kind of know what woke looks like. We know what it looks like, right? Could this even be possible? Can a particular social movement or political identity be uglier than another? It can be, yes. If your political or social ideology, um, it depends on what the values are of that political and social ideology. If it's something like woke that says tradition and anything normal is to be pushed down, then yes, that's going to result in uglier people. Because you're saying that traditional beauty standards and traditional aesthetics and traditional, um, um, modes of dress for different occasions, that all of that is to be thrown out the door. So, of course, that's gonna result in uglier ways of dressing and uglier ways of living, which affects your body, and uglier ways of carrying yourself and presenting yourself. When you hear the word woke, what images begin populating your brain? You might conjure up more visual, generalizations based on people with any woke movement who then became viral memes like Trigglypuff. Yes. Perhaps he or she has vividly and unnaturally colorful hair dyed pink, purple, green, blue, or red, which is cut or buzzed into edgy styles like micro bangs, undercuts, or pixie cuts. Perhaps he or she is either shockingly skinny with barely visible musculature that points to a diet deficient in animal-based nutrition, or he or she is totally out of shape with a BMI ranging from obese to morbidly obese that points to a lethargic lifestyle and hedonistic tendencies. Here's a woke tweet about fat phobia in the queer community. Perhaps he or she dresses in alternative fashions that your average Joe or Jane wouldn't be caught dead wearing unless it were Halloween. Perhaps he or she isn't easily designated by the naked eye as a man or woman. And they get off on the fact that they can confuse the masses into their delusions that they can transition from one sex to the opposite. Perhaps he or she cares about having preferred pronouns in their bio to such an extreme that they even wear a badge so strangers don't gasp, misgender them. Perhaps he or she has an air of angst and gloom that follows them like a shadow, their internal victim mentality presenting externally and signaling to onlookers that you better be on your best behavior around them lest you get accused of hate crimes such as racism, sexism, classism, ageism, ableism, or homophobia and transphobia. You left off xenophobia. Got to hit the whole list. So, uh, this is a great article. I'm going to link it in the description. You should read the whole thing. But at the end, they get into the psychology behind why this might be true, which we've already covered a little bit. But at the end, they talk about how Gen Z, it seems to be rejecting this, that Gen Z finds it laughable and unattractive, and that there's sort of a new consensus arising that woke is for ugly people. And I think that if that's true, that's a very positive thing. Um, I'm going to share this below. Cluster B political disorder, says Otto. Yes, I agree. I'm going to share this below. I think you guys should all check it out. And if I leave you with anything today, I guess, let me leave you with this. It's what we started with. It's what we started with. There are actual psychological, and I believe also spiritual, I believe that spiritual, and emotional benefits to looking nice, to dressing nice, especially like even and especially when you feel in a bad mood, even and especially when you're living through a chaotic political or social climate, even and especially when you don't have a lot of means and you're on a budget, you can one easy way to lift your mood is to dress nicely, is to put on your glad rags, as they called them in the 20s and 30s. And it doesn't require a lot of money. You can what is it? Wear it out. Oh, what's the expression? I already forgot it now. Use it up, wear it out, make do, or do with nothing. You can take that expression from the Great Depression. You can take the example of feed cloth dresses. You can make something beautiful out of very little. You can recycle, you can reuse, you can make your money, save your money and spend it where it matters. Penny pinch in certain areas so you can spend more lavishly in other areas. You can have one really nice outfit for the special things, but it affects your mood. It affects your performance. It affects the way you think of yourself and your fellow man. It affects how you treat others, and it affects how they perceive you. And it changes the way you go through your day because you're going to get more people smiling at you and complimenting you and saying nice things to you. And that's going to elevate your mood. And it's just a win-win. So I would like to see us return to a day that's more reflective of the old historical photos that come across my Facebook feed, in all these photo groups I'm in. I would like to see that. I would like to see men and women just putting a little bit more effort into how you dress. It doesn't mean you can't wear casual stuff. Of course, depending on the activity, I have casual clothes, of course. But it means that when you're going to stand in line at the grocery store, maybe don't wear something you think is sexy, but is really not appropriate for your body type or your size or something. Maybe it means don't let your butt cheeks or your boobs hang out. Or maybe it means when you go to church, take a little extra effort and dress nicely. You're going into the house of the Lord to worship your King. That's a beautiful thing. Jesus loves you how you are. You don't have to get spiffed up, sure. But why not show him that respect? It's like going to a White House dinner and honoring the office of the presidency, even if you don't like who's in that office at the moment. It's about dressing for the occasion and dressing for the situation and showing respect for whatever that situation is. It's about not wearing the dominatrix outfit to the classy business dinner, but maybe instead wearing the dominatrix outfit to the sex club when you go there. It's like, why are you taking the brothel clothes out of the brothel and putting them in the church or putting them in the White House? It's, or the grocery store line, it's not appropriate. So that's my topic for today. There's a lot of different things to think about and talk about. I think I covered most of the parts I wanted to cover. And if there's something that you want to try to wear that you've said to yourself, like Mrs. A, I don't think I could pull that off. Try it. If you think if you want to, if there's like a beautiful hat, a vintage hat, some cowboy boots, whatever it is you want to try, maybe colorful shoes, like those sneakers, whatever. Why not? You're an adult. You're not in middle school. Who cares if somebody doesn't like it? That says more about them than you. I mean, I get those negative comments. Whatever. I get a ton more positive ones. The negative ones don't matter. People always, especially when I go on other shows, are like, "What's with the hat?" I'm like, "I don't care. I like the hat." What's with your mouth? Who cares? Who cares? You're an adult, so dress in a way that is dignified and beautiful, that accentuates dignity and beauty and joy and brings you and others joy. And yeah, I think that's it. Confidence sells the style, says John. Yes. Okay. That's it for today. I'm going to see you guys on Wednesday for that Christian panel, 6:00 Central. I'm going to be back here with Odin from OMB Reviews, Brahma Bull, Michelle from Force of Light. We're probably going to have a special guest, and we're going to be talking about redemption stories and talking about some of the hot topics lately about Russell Brand's baptism and some of the people online who are attacking former OnlyFans girls and criticizing their redemption stories. And we're just going to be talking about redemption and what God says about it. And that's on Wednesday, 6:00 Central. Hope to see you there. Thanks for everyone for being in the chat today. Thank you for the super chats and for supporting Deprogrammed. And hope you have a great rest of your Monday. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.